So usually, like every year, I'll have a Linux phase where I would install Linux on the device I'm using the most, like my computer or my laptop. And when I started using Mac more, I decided to get Linux on my MacBook, even though it wasn't really optimized for that. There was a project called T2 Linux, which was good, but it's still in development. And it did have some issues, like when you close the laptop or when you open it back, it wouldn't really, you have to turn it back on again, it would break. But the issue that I had is that one day I took my MacBook out my bag and it wouldn't boot, it wouldn't do anything. And this was because something called Bridge OS, which is like a modified version of Apple Watch OS. I guess like the EFI thing, that's how you go into recovery, that's how you do all that stuff, right? But I went on there and it was working, nothing was working to get them boot open. And a few months later, I decided to turn it back on just to see if it worked. And I saw the Linux Mint logo. I was like, oh, I forgot I had Linux on here. So I tried to start using Linux again. The touch bar wouldn't work sometimes. The fan wouldn't turn on, so that could cause overheating. And you know what I'm saying? This is not a good experience to use it as a MacBook. You when you buy a MacBook, you're also buying the OS. So, you know, yeah, it might have a functional computer that slightly works, but not really one that works, and that's not what I'm looking for. And basically, I tried to fix it because the only way to fix it is to do a DFU restore, which I did. And it only boosts into internet recovery. You can't install anything for internet recovery. You could only go to disk utility. You can't reinstall macOS because if it'll give you error, at least on my part. And then it didn't even boot into internet recovery after a while. So it was kind of a bad experience, to be honest. I had to go through this. And I really do like Linux, but I think I started to quit, bro, because I have used Linux on other devices and has broke on those devices as well. It has broken the OS. I know Linux on Mac is testing purposes, my fault, whatever. There, but I even installed Linux on my PC. It deleted the whole Windows C drive and I had to reinstall Windows. I had it on my laptop, it broke everything, and what I'm saying, it's just like using Linux. It's a lot of stuff where you're like dual booting Linux is probably the issue. Like dual booting Linux because Linux doesn't support everything, even though I heard it's gonna support games in the future. It doesn't support everything, so you're gonna have to dual boot it to use other OSs as well for the apps or whatever you might need it for. But I just want to go over the issue I had with this T2 Linux project. Using my older MacBook, even though it's kind of slow, it kind of does overheat, and the battery life is terrible. It's worse than like a iPhone 6. But that's what I had to use until I upgraded to Windows, like a Windows laptop, and I'm pretty content with it, to be honest. Like I guess Macs are not for me, and maybe the M1 series is better, but Intel Macs, not I have not have a good experience with them. They're long lasting though, but other than that, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting bad ones, but it is what it is.